Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Rabbit Hole Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at the Beretta M9. In this case, the Beretta M92A1, which has a few changes over the standard M9, as you could probably imagine. So Beretta, aside from being one of my favorite firearms manufacturers, has really made a ton of different designs that I like. Beretta shotguns, like the 1301 Tactical, which we're going to review later, the Beretta 12S submachine gun, all of their shotgun lines, their break open designs, of course the Beretta 92FS, which is, to me, when people say the word Beretta, I think a little bubble appears and an image of a Beretta 92 is what shows up. So I think that they're pretty much well known for that design. Now they've made other weapons, going back into World War II, they had weapons in service, the Model 38 submachine gun, an excellent submachine gun. Everything Beretta makes, for me, has been a winner. Now, except for maybe those little break open 22s, those little pistols. I've had issues with those, but that's just me. It could just be my problem, right? But moving on. So Beretta has been making firearms since the 1520s, based in Italy. They are now a parent company to about a dozen other companies. So they are a big heavy hitter in the firearms industry. Now, what I think really put Beretta on the map in the US is, of course, the adoption of the Beretta 92 as the M9 service pistol in 1985. Now, of course, they were domestically manufactured in Accokeek, Maryland for many years. I think that factory is now closed. Don't quote me on that. So that pistol really put them on the map for U.S. consumers. Yes, they had Berettas, of course, in the country before that. But having the Beretta M9 be the U.S. Army or military service pistol from 1985 until roughly 2017, 2018 timeframe, really put them on the map. And so the M9A1 is one iteration beyond that. And really the two major changes you're going to see is, one, if you look here, it has a Picatinny accessory rail on the dust cover. And it also has a captive recoil spring, which I'll show you now. So at least for the civilian market, look at how easy that thing takes apart. So smooth. We'll get into why that is. Now, a standard Beretta has a steel guide rod with a separate spring. And the M9A1, at least the one that you can buy in the civilian market, comes with this polymer guide rod with a captive spring. Now, you can retrofit this back and make it with a steel guide rod. I have done that, but right now, for the purposes of this video, I have replaced it with the standard polymer guide rod. So if that's really an issue for you, I would say it shouldn't be, because you can, for very little money, procure yourself a steel guide rod and spring. One way to tell Beretta M9s is, if you look, all the major components have assembly numbers. So if you look at the barrel, it has an assembly number there, and it has a matching assembly number on the slide, and you'll see it on the frame. Also, something different from the Beretta 92FSs and the M9s, if you look, it has a chrome line barrel, which I really like. Is it really necessary to have a chrome line barrel for a gun that's just going to sit in a range and then go from ranges back and forth to a range bag and to my living room? Probably not, but it's just an extra layer of protection. You can pretty much fire god-awful ammo through it. This gun is plus P rated, so you can fire plus Ps all day long. The NATO spec ammunition that's 124 grain full metal jacket. It's loaded slightly hotter than your standard 115 grains. So just a smooth handgun. Also, you'll notice it has a lanyard loop because it is an M9. That's another identifying feature. These grips, of course, can be changed out for whatever grips you want. If you want to have thinner aluminum panel grips or wood or however you want to customize it, you can do it. I've just left it standard. All the controls are very accessible. It's a large handgun. That's probably my only criticism. I'll get that out of the way right now, is that for concealed carry, this is a bit large. The weight is not so much of an issue because it's an aluminum alloy frame and the gun feels really nice in the hand, but the footprint is large. That is somewhat offset by the magazine capacity. You're looking at 17+1. So you're not going to get cheated in the ammunition department, but it is a little bit large. So, if you're carrying it underneath a coat, it's probably going to work better for you. I would probably take even a Glock 19 over this as a concealed carry because the round capacity is pretty much identical and it's a smaller gun overall. But let's move on. So if you look, it has a frame-mounted decocker. They have different models. They have 96s, which are 40 cals. We won't get into all the sub-variants of the models because this would probably be an hour-long video if I did that. But they have different methods for cocking the pistol. I think they have a D model. They have a whole bunch of different variants. You can research that. It may even be on Beretta's website because a lot of those guns are still in production. So the slide stop is very accessible. Now I have pretty large hands, as I pretty much talk about in every one of the videos. And the magazine button is accessible. You kind of have to reach a little bit just because of the overall width of the pistol grip. That's just part of the design. Can you get an enlarged magazine button? Yeah, I'm sure you could. But also, this is interchangeable, so you can swap this out. You have the ability to swap it out and put the magazine button on the other side, which it currently isn't on, but you can make that switch if you need to. So the only control that isn't ambidextrous is the slide release. You see up here, it's duplicated left and right, or on both sides for the decock. While we're up here, we'll take a look at the sights. Nothing particularly fancy. 3-dot affair. The M9 is going to have like a dot and a dash. It doesn't have the 3 dots, but this is the M92A1 for civilian, I guess for civilian market. So it has the 3-dot. Now you can interchange these for whatever sights you want. They're dovetailed front and rear. So put some night sights on there if you so choose. If you're going to have this as a bedside gun or a carry gun, I would definitely opt for night sights. One of the big things that makes Beretta so famous, at least in the ergonomics and handling department, and the way these guns are, they're so smooth. If you look, as I cycle this slide, it is like butter. It's just so nice. And the reason for that, aside from being very well made, is this open top slide. If you look, it has it's kept into battery with a locking block, which we won't really get into the locking block here, but you can see it locking into those two recesses here and here. And this whole area is exposed barrel. So it's an open top slide design. And so when that slide cycles, there's really nothing to catch on the barrel. It's just so nice. And that's what makes this gun so smooth. This one is relatively new, so you can imagine if you put a bunch of rounds through it, it gets even smoother. But these are always, I really can't convey how smooth these guns are to operate in person. You really just have to see it for yourself. Now this is a design iteration. It's like an improvement over the Walther P38, because if you know, the Walther P38 has the same style of open top slide design. And we're going to do a review of the model, the P38/P1 down the line. Also an excellent pistol. So the Italians took that open top slide design. They made a double stack out of it. It still has that double single action like the P38. Just an excellent pistol. And there's a reason why the U.S. military adopted this in '85. Now in 1985, this was state of the art. Is it state of the art today? I'm not going to say it's state of the art, but it doesn't mean that it's not excellent. And of course, I have a Beretta bias. So take that with what you will. Everything that I talk about here is coming from someone who's owned Berettas and has liked Berettas for 30 years. Let's put it on the scale and we'll talk about some of the specs. We want to keep this video under 20 minutes. It seems to be a real struggle for me to keep videos short. So empty weight with one magazine. I'm sure it's going to be close to those published weights. Let's see. Well, we don't want to have it in grams, do we? All right, so 33.63 ounces for this gun. The published weight that I have is 34.4 ounces, so that's close enough. Now we're going to go ahead and test it with 17 rounds of 115 grain full metal jacket. 40.71. Now, if you loaded it with 1 round in the chamber and 17 behind it, you're looking at over 41 ounces. So not particularly light, but it's an alloy, aluminum alloy frame, so it's not as bad as like a CZ P01, CZ75 P01, which we're going to review here shortly. Also an excellent pistol. Every time I pick up a Beretta and I cycle it, I just get a little smile on my face. Maybe I'm a simple man. Other features of this gun. So it's a 4.9 inch barrel, overall length of 8.5 inches. The weights bear it out at 36 ounces. Double action, single action with a safety decocker. The finish is a Teflon-based black finish called Brunetton, which all the aluminum alloy guns, like the blue style guns that you see, are going to have that Brunetton finish. Now they have other ones. I think they have some Cerakote guns now, and they have different slide finishes, like the M92A1. They have like OD green and FDE. I'm not an expert on those. I probably should be. I'm thinking about getting, well, I want to get a Beretta Inox to review. I had one years ago, and I need to get another one. So street prices on these guns, they're not inexpensive. You can buy them used. Of course, you can get an FS, 92 FS used. If you use like a blue label program, if you're military law enforcement, I've seen them as low as roughly $500 for a standard M9, which is an excellent buy. Ergonomics on this gun are excellent. Now, if you have small hands, it's going to be less. It's going to be more of an issue for you, right? But for people with large hands, not a problem at all. Now, let's take a look at the trigger weights. The triggers are very smooth on these guns. So whatever weight the double action comes with, it's a very smooth trigger. It's not gritty at all. We will go ahead and check clear. Very easy to check clear because it's open top. I've actually never had a Beretta jam on me, an M9 or a 92 FS, whether that be in military service or civilian side. I put a lot of rounds to the M9, deployed with it. Never had a problem with the M9. And you got to keep in mind, those were guns that had been, some of them have been beat to hell, and they still functioned just fine. You might have hardly any finish on it, but as far as the accuracy and reliability, it was 100%. So that's just one person's observation going back to the early 1990s up until current day. I do prefer this over the M17. I have shot the M17. I shot it in competition. That's another review. I'll do an M17 review later on. I just prefer the M9. Kind of like old people prefer 1911s. I guess I'm starting to get old. 13.4 pounds. You know, if you have, I think a lot of it has to do with the amount of experience you have with a gun. Like I have way more experience with this pistol than I do the M17. So naturally, I'm going to prefer it, I think. 13.6 pounds. We'll do one more. $14.6. So between 13.6, 14.6. Not particularly light, but you're only going to get one shot off with that trigger weight. I'm going to assume you're going to carry it with a round in the chamber and the hammer decocked, and that'll be your first shot. We'll do a single action series of pulls. £5.8 pounds. $6.4. Let's do a prediction. I think the last one's going to be like a 6.2. Let's see what I come up with. 6.4. So that feels about right. The trigger pulls are are very nice for what it is. Yes, you can do trigger jobs on pretty much anything you buy, but should you bother? No, I wouldn't bother changing this gun at all. The only thing I would really do would probably be put night sights on it. I think out of the box, it's perfectly adequate. This is an excellent house gun. Just add some night sights and a tactical light, which of course you have the accessory rail here to do so. So that's not a problem anymore. And either use the 17 round mags or go with even higher capacity if that's what you want to do. It's a house gun, so the size and weight penalty is not there as much. As a concealed carry, it's funny because I've carried the M9, of course, unconcealed on missions and things like that, on duty. You're going to have a nice, strong holster for it. I know the vintage Blackhawk shoulder rigs, or not the shoulder rigs, the thigh rigs. A lot of people, crap on those, but they actually do work. They're retention holsters. They're very strong. I never had an issue. I never lost a handgun. The holster always stayed in its position where I needed it. Getting in and out of vehicles with a holster like that is a problem, but either carry it in a shoulder rig. If I were to carry that concealed today, I would have it in some sort of a shoulder holster and have a jacket over top. I don't think I would strong side carry this. It's just too big for me. And I'm not a small person. So excellent house gun, an excellent shooter. Collectability, I mean, they're still making Berettas to this day. They've expanded the Beretta M9 line well past whatever the military ever used. The military really didn't deal with it much beyond the M92A1. So all the ones that you see now with the threaded barrels and the FDEs and different triggers and things like that, different magazine profiles or grip profiles, that's all civilian adaptations, and they're all excellent. So you'll see the M92A1s and other designs, they'll have two different style of trigger guards, just so you know. They'll have one with the finger rest, which is the traditional M9 profile, and then you'll see the one like the one I have, which is a rounded trigger guard. So this is just happens to be the one that I picked up. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Stay tuned for a Beretta Inox review, and I'm going to be reviewing other Beretta firearms, including the 1301 Tactical. That's coming up in a later series of videos. We're going to do some live shooting with that. An excellent shotgun in its own right, and worthy of its own video. So that's all I have. This has been episode 14 of Rabbit Hole Reviews, reviewing the Beretta M92A1.